Good evening. I'm Leslie Fleischman. I'm the director of the Early Childhood Center at JCC Metro West. Thank you very much for joining us. It's nice to see some of your familiar faces. I'm so pleased that you're having the opportunity to listen to and interact with Stella Grisant on this Zoom webinar. Stella is not just an expert in psychology, but an expert in positive psychology, which we could all use a good dose of right now, every day. Stella has, I urge you to join her website, which I hope she'll post up here. She's many words of wisdom. I have been privileged to be in her company also when she has given a workshop to the teachers in our school that we talked about for days and days and days and still do. And that was back in November. Stella is also a mom at our ECC. And so we are very, very fortunate. She is very well educated from Columbia and University of Pennsylvania. And I think you made a really good choice. I know there's a lot of Zoom meetings out there and things for you to access, but I think you made a great choice to join us tonight. So thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Stella.
Thanks so much, Leslie, and it's a real honor to be here with you all. I'm very close to the community. It's been my community for several years, with Lenore going to school there. So what I thought we'd do is just kick off first, because I want to get a sense of where you guys are and what your situation is. We're all having a collective experience, but also it looks so different depending on what's going on for you. So would you mind just filling out this quick poll and letting us know if you are the parent of a young child, the parent of older children, or have someone else living at home, or if you don't have any children living at home. The reason why I want to ask is because if you have children at home and you're also trying to work, as you know, that's a very challenging experience. And I can attest to that firsthand. So if you wouldn't mind just filling out that poll, that would be great. And we can see our results in a few seconds. But in the meanwhile, I just wanted to thank you so much for joining tonight and to let you know that I've created actually a special resource website for you where I'll be collecting all sorts of tools at remoteandresilient.com. And I went ahead and I put that in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And I think when the results from the poll come in, we'll see those. I don't know if they just came in and I missed them. All right, so actually, let me just do one thing. All right. All right, so here we see the results of the poll. We see 70% of folks on here live don't have children living at home. 30% do. Okay, that is actually really great information. Thank you guys so much. And also, I just want to make you aware of the chat function. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a little icon that looks like a thought bubble, and that's your chat, and that's where you can participate today. I really encourage you to participate. I want to know what you're thinking, how you're responding to some of the tools I'm sharing. And if you have questions, you can always put your questions there. I'll be taking most of the questions towards the end of the session. So go ahead in your chat function right now and let me know if you're working right now, if you've had a conversation with your boss in the last 2 to 3 weeks, just trying to understand what your new or what realistic expectations were for you. So go ahead in the chat and just let me know if you've had a conversation like that. And if you haven't, if you would like to, but don't feel safe having that conversation. All right, so Alicia says yes, awesome. Was it a good conversation? Okay, Dan says no. Dan, let me know if that's something you want to have but haven't been able to. Same for Laverne. Alicia, always great. Great, great, great. You're very, very lucky. All right. Daphne says yes. That's great. Okay, beautiful, you guys. So what I want to talk to you about today is, one of the things, and tell me if this is true for you. You've probably felt very, very distracted at home. Like, go ahead and raise your hand if that's been your situation. And the way you can raise your hand is when you go to participants and you press on participants, there's like a hand where you can raise your hand. So, or I could see you and you can raise your hand that way. Great. So, um, distraction is really prevalent amongst most folks that I talk to. And one of the things that we know from research from Harvard several years back, they did a study and they found that 51% of the time that we're doing something, we're actually thinking about something else. So that's half the time that we're doing something, we're thinking about something else. And that's under normal non-pandemic situations. So let's now, and the number one driver for why we're feeling so distracted is our emotions. And so emotions right now are at an all-time high, right? And so it's normal if you are feeling distracted. I just want you to know that that is a normal response. It's not like there's something wrong with you, that you're not handling it, right? It's so easy to blame yourself and to feel bad and to feel guilty or to feel like there's something that's wrong with you. But actually, there's something wrong with the situation. We're having a pandemic. So I just want to normalize, not only if you're feeling scattered and focused, but of course, if you're also feeling anxious or if you're feeling sad, or if you're feeling worried or depressed or lonely, all of those emotions are absolutely normal and signs of healthy emotional well-being. Because if you weren't feeling any of them at all, I would be worried if you weren't attuned enough to the circumstances at hand. So it's okay to be feeling those feelings, but today what I want to talk to you about is how do you manage those feelings in a healthy way? Because there's good ways we can handle them, and then there's not such good ways we can handle them. So what I want to talk to you about is, what do you do in the heat of the moment when those emotions are gripping at you and where you feel like you're going to just scream? And also, what can you do to build up your reserves so that you're less likely to kind of lose it? But the first thing I want to let you know is that the good news is that resilience, which is our ability to bounce back, resilience is actually an ordinary quality. It is not an extraordinary one, meaning all of us are so much more resilient than we think we are. And we see this with children, right? We know that they're so resilient, but so are you, and so are we all. And we know this from research. So I absolutely trust that we are going to bounce back, and not only bounce back, but there's a real beautiful opportunity for growth here. But not that we should be worried about trying to grow right now. I think we should just be trying to worry about getting through the day. So when we experience negative emotions, one thing I want to talk about is how, even though the urge is to push those emotions away, suppress them, bottle them up, sweep them under the rug, even though that's our urge, we know from research from the School of Public Health at Harvard that bottling up your emotions and is actually really bad for your health. It can increase your chances of premature death by 30%. It can increase your chances of cancer by 70%. Now, this is not just bottling up your emotions one time. This is consistently doing this regularly. So We need more research to help us understand why that is. But we know that if you try to pretend also to always be happy, that is also bad for your cardiovascular system. And also, what it can do is just make those emotions that you don't like feeling even stronger. So, who here has ever gotten into a fight with someone they love? And then you just pretend to keep on going, like, no, I'm okay. That didn't really bother me. And then, 3 days later, you just blow up, right? Maybe it's not at that person. Maybe you're in traffic. Maybe you stub your toe and suddenly you're having a fit. So the thing is, when we bottle up our emotions or we pretend that we're not having them, we actually make them stronger, which is the opposite of what we want to do, right? So let's talk about what we want to do. So the first thing I want to address is in the heat of the moment. In the heat of the moment, when you are feeling those feelings, when something happened that just triggered a negative response in you, what can you do to simmer down? Okay. So the first thing is, well, before I get into the first thing, first I want to set up that this is a tool that was developed by Albert Ellis. Now, for all of you watching today, I can send you the notes to this whole talk so you don't have to worry about scribbling everything down. So I will give you a way to get the cheat sheet of this session. So Albert Ellis designed this tool as a way to help us get out of our heads, because when we are in our heads, we tend to create all sorts of stories about what really happened. And those stories usually aren't really helping us stay grounded, stay clear, stay calm, and be our best self. So the first thing, I want you to just think about a situation recently that maybe disturbed you. Maybe it was a conversation you had with a loved one. Maybe it was your Zoom wasn't working on the last call you were on and you were really frustrated. Maybe it was a situation at work. So just go ahead and think about that moment where you found yourself really taken into a negative direction. And so what I'd like you to do on a piece of paper or in your notes on your computer or wherever you can write, I want you to do this exercise together with me as I'm explaining it. So the first thing I'd like you to do is think about that situation and what was the activating event? So what was it that actually happened, and can you describe it factually without any interpretation? So for example, if I was driving and someone drove into my lane and I braked quickly, those would be the facts. That's not what I would be telling myself, but those would be just the straight up facts. So what are the straight up facts? If a reporter was to write up what happened and they weren't inside your head, what would that reporter observe happened? And since we have such a small, intimate group here, if you guys do have questions, you can go ahead in the chat and just include your questions in the chat, because we have a nice, intimate group. So go ahead and write that down. And then the next step, so B, right, because the exercise is called A, B, C, D, E. B is, what is your belief about what happened? Your belief. So this is your unedited thinking. This is not clean language necessarily, depending on how you think. This is the judgmental side of you. This is maybe the ugly side that you don't really let out often, but these are your just initial thoughts. So if I was driving down the street and someone swooped into my lane and caused me to brake really quickly, maybe the first thought that would come into my head would be like, that blank cut me off. How careless and how stupid, right? So that would be some of the unedited thoughts. So what are the unfiltered thoughts that race through your mind when that event happens? And then C is, what is the consequence of your believing that? What is the consequence of your believing that? So there's a few ways that you can think about the consequence. One way is to identify the feeling that you're experiencing as a result of what you believe. So that blank cut me off. How careless and how stupid. Well, I'm feeling angry. So that's one consequence of that. And then where do you feel it in your body? Well, I guess I feel it in my throat and in my stomach. And actually my heart is pumping because my adrenaline is pumping. And then what behavior do you respond with? Well, if that happened to me, maybe I'm like screaming, no one can hear me, but I'm screaming at that guy, hey, watch where you're going, right? Now, what happens if there's others around you? What's the consequence of that? So if I had a child with me in the car, then that child might be scared as well. So I want you to go ahead and identify what is the consequence of your believing what you just wrote to be true. And then D is to dispute the belief. So dispute what you actually believed about that event. Now, you're thinking, how can I dispute it? That's actually what happened. Well, what happened was the activating event. Your belief is your interpretation of what happened. So, for example, if I was to dispute that person cutting me off, another way of looking at it could be like, well, I don't really know if he cut me off on purpose, or maybe he was rushing to the hospital. Maybe his wife was giving labor, or maybe he just didn't see me. I was in his blind spot. So give yourself a chance to just invite a 1% sliver of a possibility that maybe what went down wasn't exactly the way you interpreted it to go down. Just give yourself, it's like not, maybe 99% you're right, but maybe there's a 1% chance that it could be looked at in a different way, right? And I want you to just invite that in, write it down, entertain it. That's all you have to do. And then once you entertain that possibility, E is for noticing the effect it has on you when you actually dispute it. So in your body, notice if anything shifts in your mind, emotionally. So if I was feeling angry and my heart was pumping and I was yelling, what happens as a result of me saying, well, maybe I was in his blind spot and he wasn't doing it on purpose, right? So the effect might lead me to not feel as angry, or maybe there's a softness in my chest now, or my shoulders relax, or I can just let it go a little bit. So notice the impact of just entertaining the possibility that it wasn't maybe as you initially interpreted the event to be. So I just want to get a sense from you guys, as if you were doing this with me, what did you notice, and were there any hiccups, any questions in this process? You can go ahead and put that in the chat box. Okay, so I'm going to keep moving. Now, right here, what I have is, it's called the wheel of emotion. And I included this here, and I will include it in the recap that I send you. And if you want the recap, you go to remoteandresilient.com and you give me your email, and I'll send you this recap. But the wheel of emotion I put here because I want you to understand there's like nuance to emotion, and the more specific you can label your emotion, the more you set yourself up for actually helping yourself. So oftentimes I could just easily say I'm stressed. Oh my God, I'm feeling so stressed. But if I was to say to myself, oh, I actually feel lonely, I that would help me have some indication of like, well, what can I do to tend to my loneliness? Or if I was to say, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, then that would mean, okay, what can I pull back? What can I do to give myself some order and to manage expectations? So the more specific we can label the emotion, the more specifically we can attend to it. But if we just say, oh, I'm just stressed or I'm feeling bad, then it's harder for us to kind of get to the root of what's going on. So labeling emotion as specifically as you can really supports you. Also, by labeling it out loud, what you're doing is you're thinking through it. So when you have the emotion, it's really high, it's in your amygdala. What you're doing is you're letting go of that part, and you're allowing yourself to just start to think a little bit more rationally. So, so I would recommend you label your emotion. Now, the other thing, and this is something that I've been using on myself almost every day, is to have a little bit of self-compassion, because none of us have ever done this before, and it's hard, and there's a lot going on. So so whenever you find yourself having a challenging moment, just remind yourself, this is new. I've never done this before. Of course it's difficult. Of course I'm feeling sad. I can't see all my friends and family. Of course I'm feeling a sense of grief because everything has changed. And God, I hope everyone's family and friends are okay, but there also is grief for the loss of family and friends, right? Of course I'm feeling anxious. The, the economy is going crazy, right? So of course I'm feeling this way. So really validating your emotions to yourself, and then telling yourself, well, I'm learning more and more each day how to better manage working from home, and I will find a way to grow through this, right? So telling yourself, reminding yourself that you are learning more and more each day, what it does is it helps you step into what is called the growth mindset. Growth mindset is a term that was coined by Carol Dweck from Stanford University that describes how we tend to approach things with either a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Growth mindset means that you believe that with enough effort and practice, you can actually become greater. Your skills can become greater, your talents can become greater. But a fixed mindset believes, no matter what I do, this is just the way it is. I can't do anything about the situation, right? So we all do a dance between the two in different parts of our lives. But the more we allow ourselves to step into that growth mindset, we're actually reinforcing the ability to kind of take on new challenges, to do what we need to do to overcome. So it's very supportive to tell yourself, you know what, I'm still figuring this out and I'm learning each day. And that self-talk is really important. How you talk to yourself is so important. And I'm sure many of us spend a lot of time talking to ourselves without necessarily much kindness. And so right now, just know that it's hard, and it's not you. It's a hard situation. And so just to try to be as gentle as you can with yourself as you move through this. So I would love to hear from you guys at this point, just to take a second. What are some techniques that are helping you stay grounded? What are you doing? Are you going for walks? Are you FaceTiming with friends and family? What is helping you stay grounded so that you can be your most resilient self? And you can go ahead and chocolate, Diane. You know what? We bought this big bag of chocolate chips from Costco, and I laughed at my husband. I was like, that was a waste. Why would you buy such a huge bag of chocolate chips? We're already halfway through. Walks, great, great. Yeah. Using a treadmill. Oh, that's great. That's a great thing to have. Yeah. Yeah, walks, nice walks. Yeah, walks for a lot of folks. Great. Connecting with friends and family. That's really great. Meditations. Yes, we're actually going to be talking about meditation shortly, because that is certainly one of the tips that I want to share with you guys. Thank you for letting me know. So let's talk about what can you be doing every day just to support yourself and build those mental reserves, right? So what we just went through, the ABCDE, was about how can you react in the heat of the moment and give yourself a little bit of space and perspective. So now I want to talk about just what are some tools you can use just to increase your elasticity in a way, your ability to bounce back and to build the mental reserves. So what I'm about to share are a number of tools, and by no means do I encourage you to want to go out and try them all and do them all. I think what I would suggest is that you listen for which one resonates with you, and you write it down and you make a note for yourself, because we're already doing enough new things as it is. And so you don't want to overburden yourself with trying too many things at once, right? That's kind of setting yourself up for failure. So I would just pick out one of the following tools and give it a shot. Okay. So I recommend starting with the basics. And I know you already know this, but and many of you are already doing this based on the Zoom chat that we just had. But oftentimes, if you're feeling a little cranky and run down, you want to ask yourself, am I getting enough sleep? Am I thirsty? Have I had water? I've had 2 cups of coffee, but I haven't had any water. Am I hungry? Am I hangry? Have I moved my body today? Do I need to get quiet? Is my head spinning? What can I do to self-care? So I'm not going to dwell on these because you already know what to do, but I'm just offering these as a reminder, because sometimes it's the simplest thing that you can do to just start to feel better. Taking a shower even, right? Maybe putting on your favorite sweater. Now, mindfulness, if you don't already have a mindfulness practice, well, this is certainly the time where I would say you must have one. And I'm normally not a must kind of person, but I think it's essential for all of us to have a mindfulness practice. It doesn't mean you have to sit on a yoga mat quietly for 30 minutes. In fact, you don't even have to sit at all. Mindfulness is really about your having a greater sense of inner awareness, just being able to check in with yourself and notice your thoughts without being swept up in them. It's about your ability to notice the sensations of your body, right? So it's about you noticing yourself without judging and noticing others without judging. Now, how can you achieve a level of greater inner awareness? Well, sitting down to meditate is one of the easiest ways to have that sense of discipline. So I would encourage you, if you don't have a strong foundation, that is a nice way to develop one. And there's many ways for you to get into mindfulness. For example, there's apps that you can use that will actually guide you through it. So Insight Timer is free. It's at the bottom of this list. Headspace and Calm both have some free trials if you want to give them a shot. And Amplify is a partner that I work with that has also activities to help you learn how to be mindful and all sorts of great stuff there. And I know with the JCC that there's also some meditation classes that are still being offered live as well, right? Facebook Lives. I thought I saw one. I thought I saw a yoga class at least. So what I would recommend is to develop for sure mindfulness practice, because what it does is it helps you create space in between your thoughts, right? And it's that space in between your thoughts where you actually can start making conscious choices rather than to be carried by the momentum of your thoughts, right? So back to that example where someone cut me off, right? If I was to just run with my thoughts, I would be really angry, and that person probably would have ruined my mood for like the next half hour or whatever. But by pausing, noticing my thoughts, seeing where they were going, and disputing them, then I actually have more control over my mind. And for now, we all extra need more control over our mind. Why? Because our experience impacts others, right? If not for yourself, do this for the people you love, because your emotions are contagious. So your positive emotions are contagious, just like Corona, and your negative emotions are contagious. So spread goodness, right? Right now. So it's easy to be overwhelmed by uncertainty and assume the worst. And trust me, I have certainly catastrophized a few times here and there. So how many of you guys find yourself worried and find yourself spinning into like worst case scenarios? Anybody here? Can you raise your hands? So if you find yourself just thinking about, oh my God, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? That's what we call catastrophizing. And whenever you start to worry about the future, what I always like to remind folks to do is to actually pay attention to what is true for you right now. So this is a grounding exercise. So if you find yourself going off into the future, well, this is a possibility that could happen. I should start taking this action to protect myself from that happening. Well, that is a very difficult battle to fight, because you have no idea what actually is going to happen. Who out of us here could have even predicted that we would be in this situation a month ago, that we would be in this situation 2 months ago? We would have never, ever imagined this, right? So it's a really useless exercise for us to be really worried in that respect. And so what I would encourage you to do is to write down 3 facts that you know to be true for you right now. So I'd love you to go ahead and practice this for yourself right here and now. What are 3 facts that are true for you right now that help you feel more grounded and more safe? So for me, it's I know I'm healthy. I know my family is safe at home. I know I have a job, right? So what are some facts that are true for you that help you feel safe and calm? Go ahead and capture those. You can capture them privately, or if you're open to sharing them in the chat, I would love to see that. Great. Terry is saying this is only temporary. So what is another fact, Terry, that is comforting to you as well? Like, for example, having a roof over your head, or are you yourself, Terry, feeling okay? Um, you know, you are loved. Yes, Laverne said, I am loved. That's beautiful. I can control my exposure to COVID. Absolutely. That's a really great one, Diane. Great. Awesome. Keep them coming. I've overcome adversity before. Awesome. That is a great one, Kevin. That's a really good one to remind yourself of. Daphne says there is still chocolate in the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. These are good, you guys. All right. So once you write these down, what do you notice after you write them down? What do you notice after you write these down? Do you notice anything shift within yourself? Alicia says, a smile on my face. Beautiful. Yafa says, relaxed. Other people, Laverne, smiling. Yeah, so when we really just plug into the present moment of what is absolutely true right now, because right now is actually all we have. This moment right here, this is all we really have. When we plug into this moment and we plug into what is true for us right now, then it does cause us to relax, because anything else is actually, it's not really true. It's just our mind spiraling into possibility. Does this mean you're not allowed to be planful and think about the future? Of course, it doesn't mean that. Like, of course, you should think about the future, but it's about consciously thinking about the future with a sense of mindfulness versus letting your mind take it away, right? Kevin says he feels lighter. Diane says she feels safer. Beautiful. I'm really glad. You guys, this exercise took us 20 seconds, right? All of the things I'm sharing with you take less than 1 minute. They take less than 1 minute, and they can really shift how you feel and how you show up. And that will support you in being more focused at work and being able to stay with the task at hand. So the other thing I want to talk about is how uncertainty doesn't always have to be scary. I think one of the things that I'm seeing with a lot of folks is how there's a lot of fear because we don't know when it's going to be over. We don't know if maybe we have job security, right? We don't know what's happening to the market. So there's a lot of fear. And again, that's a normal response. But I want to invite in another possibility and way of looking at things. And I want to also explain why we do tend to have a lot of fear with uncertainty. So uncertainty tends to be tagged as a threat in our brain because of our negativity bias. So negativity bias basically means that our brain pays attention to anything that is bad, wrong, or threatening more than anything that is good and safe. So even when we recall our memories, our brain can recall negative memories faster than positive ones. So bad stuff is like Velcro to our attention. And when we have uncertainty, our brain tends to assume that it's a threat. And the reason that is because our caveman, cavewomen ancestors who were in the middle of the wilderness all alone, if they heard a rustling behind them in the bushes, they didn't know if it was a bird or a beast, right? But if they assumed that it was a bird, well, it was most likely they probably got eaten. And so the folks who assumed the worst, the folks who assumed that it was a threat, are the ones who ran away and who survived and who are our ancestors. And so that way of thinking, of assuming uncertainty is bad, has really helped us survive. And we also have another instinctual response to uncertainty as well. And so let me walk you through that. So if we have on one side of this arrow, on the left side, uncertainty is scary. That's one side of the continuum. And that's because we have that negativity bias. On the right-hand side, the other side of the continuum is uncertainty as exciting, right? That's what we call novelty. We go into new restaurants all the time, or when we could, right? We like to travel to new destinations. We like to read new books, watch new movies, meet new people. Why do we like to do this? Because it's exciting. It's an opportunity to expand. It's an opportunity to learn something new. And so just like we have this pull to assume the worst, also within us is a pull to step into uncertainty with lightness. And so you can actually call on that other part of you in this time as well. And that's what I call your play mindset, your play mindset. So what are some ways you can do that? So it's really about reframing how you're thinking about a particular idea or experience. So here's a few simple examples. If you find yourself saying, oh my God, I have to homeschool my child, or oh, I have to wash the dishes again for the third time today, right? So instead of saying I have to, say I get to. Just do this for yourself right now. What is something that you're thinking I have to do? And now I want you to switch out with I get to, right? So instead of I have to homeschool my child, I get to think, oh my God, I get to spend more time with her than I ever would if this thing didn't happen. And I get all the sweetest kisses ever, right? So, how can you reframe an obligation into an opportunity just by changing 3 little words? And then there's maybe an experience you're dreading, right? This, or you're judging it. This sucks. This is horrible. This is just the worst thing that could have ever happened, right? But you could actually infuse it with a little bit of curiosity by saying, instead of this is horrible, I wonder, how might I be surprised by this experience? I do this all the time when I wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm just like feeling horrible. I want more sleep. And I'll just force myself to say, okay, I wonder how I'll be surprised by this day, because right now it's not looking so good. So even if it's just like a sliver of willingness, a sliver of willingness to see things differently, that's all you need. It's just cracking open the window just a little bit for fresh air. And finally, I'm stressed, right? A complaint. I'm stressed. This is, I'm horrible. So what if you were to substitute that with, well, fortunately, so I've been doing this week. When people ask me, how are you? Before I'd be like, well, it's hard, right? But what I try to start with is, well, fortunately, everyone is healthy, or fortunately, I'm healthy. Fortunately, my family is healthy, right? Fortunately, we have food. So when you start it that way, it gives you a little bit of momentum to kind of keep going down that path. And it also opens up the other person to noticing what's going well for them as well. All right. So the next thing I want to talk to you about, and this is another tool, is having a sense of control. Because one of the biggest predictors of resilience and your ability to bounce back is you're having a sense of control. That's having a sense of control and social support. Those are two drivers to really amplify your resilience. So how can you have more control when everything feels out of control, or when things feel so uncertain? Well, here is one way: saying no. All right. So often and I'm one of them, I'm a big people pleaser, and that comes from a desire to just be of service. I want everyone to be happy. I mean, that is actually my job. However, sometimes trying to make everyone happy, I end up putting myself last, and then I have nothing left to give. I don't know if you can resonate, if you've ever done that yourself. And so what you have to start assessing is like, well, where can I say no so that I can say yes to something bigger, something more important? So if it's important for me to show up for my clients and for my family in an energized state, then maybe I should say no to watching TV too late, even though I really want to. Or maybe I should say no to working past 6 p.m. so that I could be present for dinner with my family. So where can you say no? Where can you set some healthy boundaries for yourself so that you can actually be who you want to be more of the time? That could be a whole nother webinar, is how to set healthy boundaries. That's actually one that I do, but I just want to kind of, again, like create a little opening and invitation. Maybe there's some places I can say no, because you've been in this now for a few weeks. So even though the rhythm might not quite be there, it's definitely there more than it was 3 weeks ago. Now, another way that you can have a greater sense of control is to acknowledge simple wins. Acknowledge simple wins. So, for example, I call this the virtuous trifecta, which is a way to have more control. And it starts with your having awareness of what's most important to you. So with my clients, I break this down to what's their career and personal and professional vision and their values, so that they know what's grounding them and what's most important. Just for the sake of where you are right now, like what's most important? Is it about getting exercise? Is it about making sure your child is healthy? Is it about you showing support for your loved ones? Like just thinking about what is the most important thing that you want to check off, like making sure your team is healthy, making sure that you're moving the project along. So what's most important? And then you want to make conscious choices to align with what's important to you. Now, the third leg of the stool is to have appreciation for actually doing it. And this is where most of us fall short. Most of us are doing a lot, but we're not giving ourselves the credit for what we're doing. And if you were to stop and give yourself credit for what you're doing, I bet you would go to bed with more peace. I bet you would feel like the day was really more worthwhile. You would feel a sense of progress. You would feel a sense of pride. So the key to having more control is for you to be aware of how much control you're actually exercising throughout the day. So with that, what I'd like you to do with me right now is just take stock of 3 simple wins that you've already had today. What are 3 simple wins? Just go ahead and practice this, because none of these tools are so, oh my God, breakthrough. But the key is that you're actually doing them, because doing them is what's going to help shift. So I want you to go ahead and practice and let me know what are 3 wins that you guys have had today. You can share one or whatever. I will tell you one of my wins is this is the second webinar I'm giving today. And I'm happy that I'm still awake. And another one of my wins is that I did a 7-minute workout. At least I did a 7-minute workout. And another one of my wins was, let's see, organizing my daughter's craft area. All right, so we have remaining calm in a frustrating meeting. Awesome. Diane says, really productive day at work despite wonky Zoom. Excellent. Great. I consider showering and getting dressed a big win. We have made progress on a team project. Great. Great. Completed most of my to-do list. Awesome, Laverne. That is awesome. There's nothing like checking those things off your list. And went for a walk. Excellent. Made time to attend this webinar. Yes, exactly. That is an expression of self-care. Beautiful, you guys. And some gardening. Amazing. Amazing. Passover cooking. Yes, that is coming. That is coming. Beautiful. Well, thank you. And so if you just, before you, as you're going throughout your day, if you find yourself spinning out of control, just take stock. What are some small wins I've already made today? I keep a running tab of my small wins, and before bed, I just run through them. And that really helps me settle down, because our brain keeps circling when there's an incomplete task, it keeps circling. So it's a way to calm yourself down by just saying, actually, here are some wins that I've had. All right. And last but not least, most important, I think, for right now is generating positivity. Now, I know I started the beginning by saying all your negative feelings are valid and we shouldn't sweep them under the rug. And that is absolutely true. You can have a negative experience and a positive one at the same time. And I'm not expecting anyone to be ecstatic right now, but we do know from research that by cultivating positive emotion, we have a direct relationship with improving our immunity. So, this is very important for well being. Sheldon Cohen and her colleagues did a study where they actually took a group of participants and infected them intentionally with the common cold. They had a 15% solution of the common cold, meaning they would take a solution of the common cold, swab it in people's noses, and wait to see if they got infected. And before they swabbed them with the common cold, they asked them about their week before and how happy they were in the previous week. And what they found is that people who expressed positive affect, which means they were in a positive mood, had positive emotions the week before, 25% of those people got infected with the common cold. Those who were in a negative mood the week before, 75% of those got infected. So that is a very, very, very significant difference. And so our mood really plays a role on our well-being. And as we demonstrated, in a matter of minutes, you yourself have been able to shift your mood even just a little bit by doing the simple exercises we just went through. So you have more control than you think. Are you going to go from depressed to like super bubbly? No, but it's not about that. It's just about opening that window just a little bit, inviting in another way of looking at things, giving yourself a degree of more calm. So that's our goal here. So with that, one way to amplify your positivity is by just noticing what you're grateful for. It's a simple practice, just writing down what you're grateful for. Now, a number of things you've already listed today and what you know to be true, and also in your small wins, can be part of your gratitude practice. But I recommend that every night you write down 3 things you're grateful for. We know from research that if you do this for 6 weeks, you can actually reverse signs of depression, aches and pains start to go away, and you start to feel more satisfied with your life. So this is a powerful, simple tool that takes you less than a minute, that you already know, but are you doing it? So I want to challenge you to pick up and do it right now, at least, and then I'll review all the tools we went through, and then you can challenge yourself with one new tool for the week. So I will give you guys a minute, and if you want to share your gratitude here in the chat, I'd love to see it. By the way, when you share, you're actually sharing that positivity with all of us, and that's contagious. Even if I'm not in the mood and I feel a little grumpy, when I read someone else's gratitude, that kind of gets me going. So what are some of the things that you guys are grateful for? I will tell you one thing I'm grateful for is after this, I'm going to do a happy hour hangout with some of my girlfriends. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. So I just want to quickly wrap up and review the tools, and also give you a way to get the cheat sheet for this, and also more resources to support you. So we started off talking about how do you deal with the heat of being in the heat of the moment and calm yourself down through the ABCDE technique. Then we talked about having some self-compassion, just reminding yourself, of course, this is normal to feel this way, and I'm learning how to be better each and every day. Then we just talked about the basics: water, food, sleep, meditation, right? Then we talked about focusing on what you know. So if you feel like you're spiraling out and you're starting to catastrophize or think about the worst possible thing, stay focused on what is true right now. Right now I have a job. Right now I have food. Right now I am healthy. Then we talked about the play mindset as a way to reframe uncertainty. Instead of I have to, I get to, right? Then we talked about saying no. There's places where you can pull back, where you don't have to be doing it all. Maybe there's conversations you can have with your boss about expectations, or with your significant other about doing the dishes. And then we talked about to have a greater sense of control, acknowledging your simple wins, that virtuous trifecta. Often we're not giving ourselves credit. By giving ourselves credit, we're noticing our control. That helps our resilience. And finally, we talked about gratitude to help bolster our positivity and also bolster our immunity. So, with that, I challenge you guys to pick one of these to practice this week. So, I'd love to hear what you guys are going to be practicing in the chat. I'd love to see that. And then I also want to offer you some gifts. So, if these solutions I'm giving to you all, but each of you have very unique situations and unique challenges. And sometimes you just need to talk it out with someone who knows how to listen, who can help you organize a plan, who can help you organize or get to the root of what's really going on, and help you really think about your situation. Now, my background is in helping coach people to work happier and live better, and to help organizations engage their employees. So if you are interested in having a conversation with me, I am offering space on my calendar for a free conversation. I'm calling it a laser coaching session, where we can dive into something that's challenging you and kind of break through and come up with a plan and an action step that you can take to feel lighter, to feel freer, to feel more in control. So if you would like to take advantage of that, just go to meetwithstella.com. meetwithstella.com. The second offering I have for you, as I mentioned, is I will take this whole talk. I haven't done it yet. It will take a few days because all of this is new. And I will put it into a PDF, like a 1 or 2 page PDF, recapping everything with the research and the tools, making it easy for you to use. So if you would like that, and also I do short videos, and I have a newsletter, and I'm creating just a whole vault of tools around for COVID, you can go to remoteandresilient.com. And with that, it's 9 o'clock. So I will close it out. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. And I really wish all of you great, great health and healing to anyone who may be experiencing this virus. And thank you.